everybody. My name is Charlotte Whiteley, and I was asked to do collaging on canvas. I think that's getting ready for our show in the lobby, some big pieces that we don't have to hang with glass and wood. So what I'm going to show you today is just a few little things about collage. You've probably all done collage in grade school by tearing paper and pasting it onto just chunks of stuff, but collage has evolved. The history of collage kind of dates back to the development of paper, and when mistakes were made, they had to cover them up. So we all know about that as calligraphers. Our modern day collagers are George Braque and Pablo Picasso. They're kind of known for their cubist design. I hope you can see a little bit of that. You can see that they've incorporated charcoals and images and ink work and multiple components. So when we're doing collage, we're thinking about all the elements of art, the principles of art, and the principles of collage are basically where did I put that? Principles: contrast, repetition, and layering. So sometimes your collage is a bright graphic piece. You've just used some basic colors. I did some pour medium on there to give it some texture. These are pieces from old calligraphy, and I'm not sure, that's where you want to go. It can be just layering and using different images to give you your foreground and your midground and your background. So with this kind of piece, I would probably add a lot more details and elements to it, doing some paste and some stenciling, and probably some outlining. Your collage can be whimsical and could be representative. This is just a piece using some paste paper that I've done, and some, these are prints from when I was doing the ice prints, and you use the stuff. And this particular one, I had put some feathers on some of that paste paper, and it ended up, I thought it looked like a cat. So
It's cute.
on this, I was thinking I would probably add just some it needs a border and stuff. So I might just use some stenciling kind of techniques just to create border with a clear matte medium or a gel medium. So it's your choice. There's lots of products like that. You can get kind of whimsical, and this piece was done using my calligraphy from last month's Galleria, which I tore up and created. This is a poem I did for my mom, and that's multiple layers. Plus, there's still stuff I want to do on that one.
So do you use that medium to stick the stuff on?
There's different ways you can stick stuff on. So I'll quickly go through this, and then I'll talk about the glues and things like that. This is just to show you that these are just beads, wires, and stuff to give you another something else you can add to a piece as a collage piece. Now this piece is very multiple layered, and it's got a layer that's masking tape that's all just torn and stuck onto the paper, and then you use inks or those alcohol inks to create some definition in that tape. Then I wrote the two poems. They're Barrett Browning poem and On This Day. I don't know who the author was, but they were about love. And then I cut them all up and I wove them. So, and then collaged it for that. So, and And then this one was done, it's got beads and it's got, well, what's that stuff, that gauzy fabric?
Cheesecloth.
Cheesecloth, thank you. And I have a plethora of buttons, so I thought I would just play with this. And this was done on canvas as well, and it's been glazed. And I am disappointed with my text because it's showing, I used one of those pens with the fine tip and I just squeeze bottled it on and it wasn't very controlled. Another application of collage is doing altered books. And this is one my granddaughter made for me. And so you're just gluing pages together. And I think a lot of people might be familiar with that. So it's like when you say collage, it's huge. It's a huge thing. Collaging is like 3D imaging. So these are like layers of stuff. Yeah. And then that's just things cut out and added on. So that said, oh, sorry.
Oh, I love that.
So that was, and it kind of played with, you know, you cutting up, breaking into 1,000 pieces, but just pick them up and do it again. So it's kind of playing with that whole story. So one of the first things that I do is when you're working on canvas, you want to make sure you've supported your piece.
Do you want me to like move it forward so you can work here, or is there?
No, because I'd like to just put stuff
that's
under
fine.
there.
Yeah, whatever works for you, that's okay.
So I have a canvas board here, and I found a book that fits into that space. But what you want to do, why you want to do that is because you want to support that canvas as you're putting stuff down on there. And so I found a recipe for homemade gesso, which I just love, and it's made with chalk. I bought it at iron oxide, and it's very fine. It's a fine kind of calcium carbonate, and it's. Yeah. I do have a recipe that I'll send out through somebody. Linseed oil and PVA glue or Elmer's white, and you don't want to use children's glue because it doesn't have it's a little too watery, and it also doesn't have the same properties as your acrylic glues. So I set about just creating the boards, and I just used my gesso on these, just cardboard, just so you have something that you can experiment with, which is what I was doing. And then I have one of these canvas boards, and I created some squares in it so that I could experiment with different things. And I used the commercial gesso, and then I used my gesso that I made. And you can see that the chalk gesso isn't quite as brilliant white. So then I added some titanium acrylic paint, and it came out much whiter. So that's something you do. You can also tint your gesso with a bit of acrylic paint. You want to use acrylic because it's got the same properties as your glues. And I just you're going to experiment with that, because I did use some, and I got it a bit too blue. This was just a drop of acrylic paint in my gesso, and it came out quite blue. Can you see that?
Did you write over that?
Yes. So, and I didn't stir very well, and so I've got these little globules of dark color, and I quite liked it. So if you're going to use a tinted gesso, you want to put a base layer of gesso down first before you add the tinted color. And
why do you use gesso?
well, the reason for gesso is a good question. It adds a bit of tooth, and it also helps with the adhesion of your papers and stuff that you want to glue onto it. So the first thing to do is to get your gesso down and let it dry. This is an exercise in patience. And then the next thing you do is you're going to create your background. Now, some people will want to do a background. I just want to show you. This is something Ruth did. And she's filled out the whole thing. I don't know, did you create a background with that first?
No.
No.
I
Just started gluing on.
And then I just tore paper.
Okay. So I used some musical scores from an old book that I had. And I just wanted to, I did have a copy of, I just wanted to show you. So I glued them down, and I like to use Yes Glue, which is, sorry, upside down. Yes Glue is a paste. And what's kind of nice about it is you can apply it with a credit card, and when you're working on this, putting these pieces of paper down, you're gonna glue onto the gesso and onto the paper, and then stick it, and then kind of squeegee off what you can, because you don't want glumps of glue. But the Yes Glue doesn't have water in it, so it doesn't warp your paper and stuff.
Where do you get it?
Most art stores carry it, and it's not expensive. I mean, I can't remember. I don't think $17 for this, and it's lasted me. I think I shared it with somebody because there was so much. So that's one glue. Another glue you can use is PVA glue, which is it's another acrylic glue. Make sure you squeegee that out as well, because you don't want it can cause warping. You can also use matte medium as one of your gluing. Like this was all glued down using the matte medium. So I tore up the papers and I glued them down. I took them around the edges because I thought that's going to be a nice sort of edge to that. And then I took a little bit of gesso, I watered it down, and I did the whole thing with gesso again. And this is the original score, and then you see that it softens it up. And you can even take some white paint and sort of squish it here and there, whatever you'd like to do for that. So then I'll just show you.
Do you ever use Mod Podge?
Okay, I have Mod Podge in my arsenal, but Mod Podge, when it dries, it's tacky. It can be sticky. And if you're doing it like in an altered book, you're going to get pages that stick together. So it depends on where you're using it and how you're using it. And I find too, with our humidity that we have around here, that this stays tackier than I like it.
I also,
Seal it with an acrylic?
Yes.
I don't know if the Mod Podge is archival either. Like, you know, some of these, like the PBA that Charlotte held up and the golden, they're archival. It means that they are neutral pH. They won't yellow or go brittle or anything over time. They are designed for artwork to really, really last. So I avoid Mod Podge because I don't think it's archival.
It's crafty.
Mm.
Yeah, let's
Sorry,
just
Charlotte.
give it that word. So the next thing you do is you create your background, and you want it to sort of be just subtle. You might, use maps. You might use ledger things, old letters, just something that creates just a soft background for yourself. And then what you can do, the next step you have to work on is to sort of get your composition. And so you're going to look at the elements of art. You maybe want a focal point, and you might want to add some flowers. I'm just playing here, but so you're sort of working yourself up to how you want to present your piece. So I was having a lot of fun with these flowers. Were in the liquor store recipe book. I just love them. So I just cut them all out.
All your friends have holes in their magazine.
Beautiful.
National Geographic is a great place to get magazines. And so then when I'm kind of like, I'm gonna play with it a little bit, maybe I want her to be in the middle. No, I don't. I want her here, don't want her here. So I kind of like her over here. And then what you want to do is take a picture of that on your camera, have a look at it and say, no, I think I need to move some things. And then you'll kind of shift things and move them around to suit yourself. And then when you're ready to start gluing, you might want to just, it's called registering, and you would take one of your pieces and you would lay it down and you would just sort of maybe mark a few places that you want to, let's say I want it there. And then when oh, that's not very clear. When I want to glue this down, I kind of have a sense of this. I'm doing it dark so you can see.
I said, how smart is that?
Oh, so then you're going to get ready to glue it down. And I don't throw your silly phone books away, because they're the best gluing tools you can find. And so I'm going to use my Yes glue. What I like about Yes glue is it kind of feels a little bit hard, but as soon as you start working it and moving it around the page, it sort of softens out and it moves and spreads really easily. Yes. So I've got my piece, and because I've put that board behind there, I'm happy because I can now press this down. And I've got my registration marks there that I liked. And then you might just use a squeegee to take out as much moisture as you can. And then you're just going to keep working and working that until you've built up something that you like. And then you might think, well, I like that, but I want to add some more interest to it. So one of the things you can do is you can use pencil crayon to outline something. If you, like on this one here, I just use watercolor pencil, created the edges and then wiped it in there. So you might want to add some dark marks or light marks or something like that. And then, you know, you're pretty well got you've laid down all your layers. And then the fun kind of starts, because you want to create some borders maybe, or you want to emphasize something. You can use stencils and stamps. You can add gold leaf using your matte medium. You can create, did they see me do that? You can create texture just using some of these mats and just add a little bit of ink to it and press your paper or press it onto your piece. Oh, somewhere in the archives of years of collecting. Yeah, so, and then, you know, I don't know, does anybody want to see a stenciling technique? Okay, where did I put?
I'd like to know how you add calligraphy.
Oh, yes, so once you got your piece, you can use some matte medium, some what did I have here? You can use a matte medium, or you can use some more gesso. You're going to get some white, you know, you're going to change the color if you use that. But a lot of these mediums, you can get them clear or you can get them colored, or not colored, but opaque. And you want to use the clear, and you create a space on your collage, and it gives you some tooth to write on that. So when I created this board, I was playing around with some different types of inks and types of, this is some watercolor that seemed to work okay on there. It's gonna wipe off. That's the other beauty of this, is each layer you put down, you kind of seal it with some more medium, matte medium. And if you make a mistake with adding some color, you can kind of blob it up and take out some of it. So before you put the sealer on it. So for sealing it, there's a product called Gloss Polymer Medium that makes a good sealer. So I don't know if you can see that. And it's a shiny one, but there's also sealers that are flat mediums. You can use these Krylon sprays. This one is clear gloss, but you can also get them flat. You know, I don't really like too much gloss. I like the flat. So I was just going to show you. I wanted to do it on this horse one because I just don't like the horse one. Just shifting this junk. So I just have this little stencil. I thought it kind of looked like a little picket fence in front. So
Yeah, they can
okay.
see, yeah.
So to put on the those things, I have a product called Fiber Paste, golden, and it's just going to be. There's a lot of products like that are pastes and stuff, so they all work. Even the gel medium works. This is going to add some. It's an opaque paste, so you could tint this with a little bit of color, but you'd have to mix it up. So would you use acrylic to color it? Yeah. All of these golden products are acrylic based. So I'd probably start over here because I'm a right-handed person and I work left to right or right to left. I'm just gonna. So, and I would probably wait for that to dry before I put the next one down, or I have a bigger stencil that I thought might be kind of cool if it. And you can get longer palette knives, which might be nice, but you also want to make sure they're not too long because there's too much flexibility and you want to press it down. So. And yeah,
That one's nice.
So that's just a few tips that I can share with you. It's not a lot of stuff.
Right before it dries.
Thank you. Yeah, that's a good point. These products, you want to wash off your tools before stuff dries because they are acrylic, and even though acrylic is washable, it's also permanent when it's dry. And I think that's basically, all I really have to say. You can use string, you can use rope, you can use splatters, you can use gold. It's just everything is collageable. What you really want to do is go onto some websites. I've created a couple pages of stuff for you that you can read at your leisure. I'll have that sent out, and it's got the gesso recipe on it. So I'll send that out. But there's some websites that are really good, and one's called the Brooklyn Collage Collective.com, and I've got it on the sheet too. What they've got is they've got many artists and their collages and how they what inspires them and why they created it. So for yourself, it's a good idea to take somebody else's collage work I apologize, I stole these off the internet. But you can look at that and you can say, well, I love the way this is so subtle and muted, and I want to do stuff like that. And then you say, well, why do I like that? Well, because it's just, you have to sort of look into it. You know, it's very calming or whatever it's going to mean to you. This one here is using one of these stencils, and it's created this like wood look to it. Butterflies that they put on there. Like, do you like that kind of look? Is that something that appeals to you? Maybe you like these bright, brilliant things. This is using, I like this one because it's using a lot of calligraphy that they've cut up and used. So basically, any questions maybe, or?
When you go to do the writing, you do write it on paper and then
Okay, the question was, do you write on the medium or do you write on paper and stick it on? And the answer is yes. Well, that's why you have this thing called your practice and experiment page, because you're gonna try different mediums and different bases. Like, try your matte medium, try your gesso. And
acrylic ink probably would work well.
acrylic ink, but this here, like, and I spelled chalk wrong, so pardon me. Those are both done with the Pentel Pilot pens. So the thing is, you're gonna seal it, so you don't have to worry about it, you know, blending or messing, or I guess if you went over it with something and you're working it too much with a brush. But you would probably add that kind of text at the end.
It's a felt marker.
Well, you know, those,
Not the parallel pen.
yeah.
Sorry. It's okay. I'm just trying to get around to people that have questions.
Did I put it somewhere? Oh, these things. This is all I used.
Okay,
And it's just the ink that comes in the cartridges, so.
okay.
I've used my,
The ink that comes with it, it does react to added water after.
yes.
So it runs terribly, so you have to really be careful with that.
And that's why I said do that last and then
Yeah.
do the seal on top of that.
Yeah.
The seal.
Charlotte, I have a question.
Yeah,
Jeanette,
Jeanette, hi.
hi. If you're doing a piece of artwork that has depth to the finished artwork, this applies to anything, not just collage. How do you frame it for the purposes of exhibition without breaking the bank? Is there something that you use?
If you mean, are we talking about the canvas part of it or just
Well,
anything?
Okay, in this particular case, you used canvas, and you know that your end product is all sealed. But what happens when you want to exhibit it and they insist that it be the exhibition holder, the gallery insists that it be in a frame and covered?
So if you were I have framed canvas pieces in, and I haven't put glass in. Because there's nothing you need the glass for when you're using an acrylic.
Other than the gallery
and
requires
you'll-
it?
I don't think the gallery would require it.
Okay.
No, galleries only require glass on unprotected watercolor.
Okay, that's
Acrylics and
fine.
oils don't need glass.
Okay,
Okay.
that's fine. That answers that question. As long as
Thank
it's,
you.
as long as it's glued and sealed to hell and gone, they don't care.
Yeah,
Okay,
well, and it's going to be your choice. It's your artwork.
yeah,
So,
okay, okay.
That lovely sun there.
oh yeah, the flower.
Is that done with tissue paper or with paint?
I didn't investigate that. I just like the image.
Oh, it's not yours.
No, I said I
Oh.
stole them off the internet. Please Don't let this get out of this room.
Charlotte, so the one that you have in your hand, the blue one, can you turn it around and just explain for a moment how you would put the eye hooks or whatever in that in order to put a wire so that it could be hung? Oh, okay. good.
Oh, yes, that's going to be covered in a minute with Carolyn.
Great.
Caroline. Yes. What else was I going to say? The other thing too is I talked about, you know, finishing off your sides. So this is one done by Ruth. It's beautiful. She's done a background here. She's used rice paper. On this one, I have to show you this one because this is another one of Ruth's. She did this calligraphy on a piece of text wove. And of course, you could use the text wove, but it's going to give you a little bit more of a ridge, but it doesn't matter on collage. But she photocopied it on her rice paper in her photocopier machine and then just tore it out and was able to add it. So that worked really well. And then these are just torn rice paper that, to me, it looks like fabric because it's kind of crunched up. And I think collage is just so huge. It's just so huge of possibilities. And it's actually daunting because, you know, when you look at something like I was showing you here, these things are just, I just love this. I love layers, and I love, that's why I did that weaving. I love weaving. And I love the fact that this could use a lot of your calligraphy practice sheets that you did in Betty's classes or somebody else's class. And then you can just add that color on top of those white sheets. That's where that's kind of fun.
It's beautiful. And Paulette also showed me, or showed us, I think, how you can sew your paper. Like if you've got like 140-pound watercolor paper, she just sews it on her sewing machine. And I tried it and it works beautifully. So you can sew all your pieces together, then you can sew them to a canvas background or something. It's so cool. Paulette is very creative. She's not
Yes,
here
she
to
is amazing. All righty, that's it for me.
Thank you, Charlotte. Lovely. So I am, when Charlotte's cleaned up a little bit here, I am going to show you how to put either your calligraphy or your artwork onto a very inexpensive board that you can get in Dollarama or the art store, and how you can put the wire on the back. And it will save you lots of money if you choose to do this method, especially if you do a collage, because you do have to figure out how to frame it. So I'm just,
I was going to show that last.
that one's beautiful.
That is just, that was just my sample thing of trying different things. So I was able to, you know, graffiti this. That's that cheesecloth beads. So you can do something like that for yourself as well. So anyways, sorry.
It's okay, you take your time. We've got plenty of time. But it's
Yeah, I'm
be
gonna
closer
apply for a
everybody
job.
here, yeah.
Okay. Who would I give this stuff to distribute?
Me, send it to me.
Okay.
Yeah. And I'll make sure that they get it.
All right. Oh, I forgot to mention the Yoo-hoo glue, which is also in the thing. Don't use children's glue sticks that are for school supplies, because this is Yoo-hoo, which is a good product. The children's glue sticks dry and then your stuff falls off. Yeah, so.
How did the Pritt glue sticks?
Who?
Pritt,
Pritt is another brand that's good.
is it okay?
Oh, I don't know.
Oh, okay. You have to give it the hang on the wall test.
Yeah, it just doesn't have the properties that you need for good sticking.
That was lovely, Charlotte, really lovely, thank you. Okay, yeah. Okay, we'll put that over here. Okay, we're just changing up all the stuff here. Oh, there's one more for Charlotte there.
I forgot to mention this was done on wood, if you want.
Oh, yeah, and because I'm going to be using wood here too. Charlotte just wanted to mention that this one here, beautiful little one, this is just done on a piece of wood. It's an ordinary piece of wood. It's lovely.
Something like $8 for a 6-foot piece.
Yeah, so you can cut it up if you've got, or they often cut it up. I know Home Depot and places, they will cut it up in there for you if you tell them what measurements you want. They're very helpful.
What is the wood that she's got there?
This is just a plank of like just a piece of, like it would have been like a, I don't know what measurement, but a plank of wood.
6 inch wide.
6 inch wide.
It was a plank.
A plank, yeah. You can pick them up pretty cheaply in
It
Home
was-
Depot and places.
It was 6 feet long and that wide.
6 feet long and this wide, and you cut it up into bits
And it
and
was $10.
$10. I know.
If you paint one side of it, should you not paint the other side so it doesn't work?
If it's this small, it won't warp, but if it's bigger, yes, I paint both sides because I did a bigger piece on wood and it did warp. Even though it was this thick, it still warped and I had to paint both sides. I picked up a fence post, a cedar fence post in Home Depot. It was $4.65 or something. It was like a 5-foot fence post and I made Christmas things with it. So cheap to use wood. Okay, so what I picked up, if you want to save money, I picked up these wooden painting boards, which are called cradle boards as well. I picked them up from the dollar store. I think they were $2. And of course, they're not as good as the ones I picked up from Michael's. Now, this one is a much sturdier board, and I picked it up at Michael's. And it came with the white gesso finish already on it. So if you want a really good quality board, go to Michael's or somewhere and pick up one that has the gesso on it already. But if you just want to mount something for not much money, go to the dollar store and buy one of these for $2 or $3. Cradle board or wooden painting board. Different companies call it different things. But I know that the dollar store that's south of Ladysmith, in that outside mall south of Ladysmith, yeah, they have loads of them in all sizes and shapes. They have oval, they have all kinds of shapes in there. Incredible.
We may have to stop there.
We may have to stop there, Judy said on the way home. So what I have here, just to demonstrate what I do, is I have a piece of calligraphy paper that's not very heavy, and I did this with Karen and Delea, and I thought I would use this one today. What I start by doing is I put 3 coats of fixative on there, and do this outside because this is very smelly and it can make you faint if you do it inside and you don't have enough, you know, clean air to breathe. So do it outside. It's workable fixative. This one by Grimbacher is a matte fixative and it's safe for watercolors and pencil and different things. That stops anything from bleeding when you've done your, I've put ink on here and pen and ink, which all could bleed.
So how long does one coat take to dry?
So Judy said, how long does one coat of fixative take to dry? I leave it about an hour before I do the second coat. It dries pretty quickly, but I just want to be sure. And I do 3 coats to be absolutely sure that I fixed it. This here is a watercolor on 140-pound Arches watercolor paper. And this has been sprayed with fixative and it has varnish on the top. This one, same thing. This is a watercolor. It was sprayed with fixative and then it has varnish on top. And you can buy gloss varnish, matte varnish, or satin varnish. I like the satin. And the satin just gives it a sheen like satin.
Turn that portrait over just for them to see the cradle that it's on.
Oh, the cradle is on the back. And I will show you in just a moment how to put the fasteners on the back for the wire, because they are very inexpensive too.
So that landscape there, we've gone in the back of it.
So Judy's asking about the landscape. So the back of the landscape is gallery ready. It has the hangers that I got from iron oxide, a packet. Might as well talk about it now while we're talking about it. So a packet of these hangers from iron oxide was $2.95, and you get 8 sets, so 16 of these. And I screw them to the canvas or the board and then put my wire on. A very, very easy way. I bought loads because I do a lot of framing. You don't have to have a frame around it, but my friend Paul made me some frames to fit these. So this one has a frame, but galleries don't demand a frame. If it's done like this, it's like an acrylic. You only need to have watercolor under glass to protect it, to hang it in the gallery. What you need is it properly wired at the back so that it's completely sturdy and it's not going to fall down off a gallery wall. Pardon?
Just like us.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, so that's the important thing, is have it really properly anchored at the back. And I will go back to how I prepare this. So I like to have from the dollar store. The dollar store, I think, would probably go broke if I didn't shop there every day. Oh, I got a new one of these. I have to open it. I get this parchment paper at the dollar store.
You need to know about this. It's $2.
Yep, and it lasts for ages.
It's the same.
Sorry, it's a little bit noisy. So the reason I use the parchment paper is to protect my artwork, and because nothing sticks to it. If I have the glue and everything on it, I know that it's not going to stick, and it's a nice clean surface. I know as I get it off the roll, I've got a clean surface that's not going to have anything on that's going to damage my artwork. So I use that when I'm pressing. I use the either golden or Liquitex matte gel, like Charlotte was showing you, because this is completely archival and safe for all artworks, and it's matte. So if you get any on anything, it's not going to show. If I accidentally get some on my watercolor, it won't show.
Matte gel medium.
Matte gel, well, it says matte gel matte. Yeah, but Golden and Liquitex are your best brands. I tried a different brand and it was not very good. Now I like to just get a plastic palette knife. You can get any type of palette knife. You can use a credit card like Charlotte used. And you're going to spread it like you're spreading icing on a cake to get it really close to, you need it close to all the edges so the edges don't peel up. Because there's nothing worse than getting your art on here and then the edges start to peel up. Make sure it's nice and smooth with no lumps in. I'm pushing it out to the edge. It doesn't really matter if it squeezes out of the edge because you can clean that up. You can always clean that up now. Just.
Could you use Elmer's glue as well?
I wouldn't use anything that wasn't an art product. Not on artwork. I would only use, personally, Liquitex or Golden, because I know that they are really good archival brands that are not going to go yellow or brittle or fail the artwork. They are reliable. So I get that all on there. Now what I want to do is I want to protect my artwork, put my artwork upside down, protected. Now I don't want to put the medium on the artwork because I might get it on surfaces I don't want. And I usually have the artwork a little bit bigger than the frame. And then I place my frame on there and I just check that everything's in the right place. And you can do a little pencil mark like Charlotte did if you wanted to. So everything seems to be in the right place. Now I turn it over. I put this back on there again, and you can either use a credit card like Charlotte did, or I like to use my hard rubber brayer. And I'm protecting it with this paper. I don't want to get anything on the artwork. No, there's no glue on the paper. And I turn the paper up the other way too, just in case I've got any glue. And if I'm at home, I get 2 pieces of paper, but I didn't want to waste time getting 2 pieces of paper and making a noise, tearing them off at the roll. Now at home, I would have a piece underneath and then a clean piece on the top. And with no disrespect to Caroline, because her course was amazing, but this piece was not precious to me. And my watercolors are precious, so I'm a lot more careful with them. I loved Caroline's course and I loved everything we did. This was, you know, it was just one of those ones you do kind of trying stuff out. So I really get that firmly down, and then I put heavy, heavy books on top of here and I leave it for 24 hours. So I'll get books that will fit right across, or I put a piece of wood there and books on top and leave it for a long, long time. And then when it is finally dry, it is completely firmly glued to the frame. And I'm going to then turn it over, and I'm not going to cut on this surface, but what I would do, I'm going to just mime what I would do. I'd turn it over, get a nice sharp craft knife, and then I would run it down the side of the board and trim everything exactly to the edge of the board, so that this one I have here is trimmed right to the edge of the board, nice and neat. And you can actually use a little bit of sandpaper to sand it to make sure it's nice and got a nice edge. The other thing I've done with some of mine is, before I glue anything down, I paint this edge with a matching acrylic paint. So some of them I've painted a gray acrylic paint on the edge, so the edge will always be on show.
So would you ever take the artwork down over the sides like she did with the music?
So Judy's just asked, would I take the artwork over the sides? I don't think my 140-pound paper would bend over the side. You can do that with very thin rice paper or magazine papers, definitely. But traditionally, and lots of people do it this way, you cut it off nice and clean on the edges. Now, the next step for this, I didn't bring my varnish with me today because I was using it and forgot to put it in my bag. But then I would brush on, and I prefer brushing to spraying, it just gives a better finish. I would brush on 2 coats of varnish, either in matte, satin, or gloss, depending on what I wanted. The other thing you can use, this is Gamblin. You can get Dorland's or Gamblin's cold wax. And this is a wax paste, and you can rub this wax paste on the surface too, and that will give you a waterproof coating. I'll rub it on here. So if you rub it on, and usually you use a little piece of cotton. I forgot to pack that as well. This is made by Gamblin. So again, I don't buy anything that's not a good make, because you don't know if it's going to ruin your artwork. It might go yellow, it might go brittle, and then your artwork is destroyed. So buy a good make. Gamblin or Dorland's make a good make. And you see, I'm rubbing it on this water-soluble, this is water-soluble ink and water-soluble watercolor ink, and it's got those 3 coats of fixative on. So this is not smearing it in any way, and neither with the varnish. And this gives it a gentle wax finish, and the varnish gives it a more glossy waterproof finish. This is fairly waterproof. It just depends on what finish you want. And you can buff that up when you give that an hour to dry, and then you can buff it up with a cloth and get a little bit. This will definitely not yellow.
And you spell that G-A-M?
Gamblin. Gamblin make extremely good oil paints. They make all kinds of oil mediums, very reliable. I got this at Iron Oxide, not cheap.
Wax sticky after.
$14.95. No, the wax dries and then you polish it, and it just becomes like leather when it's polished with shoe wax. And you can do it on furniture too. So it dries to a nice wax finish, that's fine. So back of this, so this is half done, take that home. This doesn't have a thingy on yet. Well, I could do it on this. Take that out of there. So let's look at positioning these on the back. Now, I always, and what I was told at art school is you measure the length of your work hanging this way, and then you do 1/3 of it for where your clips are going to go, where your hangers are going to go. If you go 1/3 of the way down and make a little bit of play in your wire, then you'll never see the hook at the top here, and it will hang just nicely. So I don't have a ruler with me. I'm going to make a guess right here. Okay, my guess is this is 1/3, and I'm going to measure it off on here. You just need to get them in the same place, that's all. So I've measured off what I think is roughly 1/3. And I'm going to put this little clip, let's zoom in. I'm going to put this little clip here, and then with my pencil, I'm just going to make a little mark where that's going to go. On the other side, same thing, make a little mark where that's going to go. Now, I don't have a hammer with me either, but what I would do now to make it easy to drill the hole for these is you put a nice thick nail in, and you hammer a hole to start with. It makes drilling those screws in much easier. So if I had a hammer with me, I'd do that. And then I put, they come with the screws. And of course, I don't have a screwdriver either, but you know how it goes. You screw this in. I have an electric one at home. You screw that in, you screw the other one in, and then they're ready to pop your wire through. And it's as easy as that. And they are so cheap. This great big box for $2.95 with all the screws. You've got all the screws in there. So really you're not spending, if you don't want to spend much money, $2 or $3 for your wooden frame, a couple of dollars for your hooks, and a couple of dollars for your wire. And of course you will need to get some fixative, some glue, some varnish. That's such an expensive part.
If they're just going to put a piece of calligraphy on there with just like ink on good paper, same thing.
Well, Judy's question was, what if you were to put a piece of calligraphy on there with just ink and good paper? That's what this is. This is just, this is Sumi ink, and this is Ecoline watercolor inks. And it is just a 60-pound paper, just a Canson 60-pound calligraphy paper. And it will be fine. Like I haven't got the weight on it here, but it will be absolutely fine. And I can varnish this, or I can wax this, or I can just leave it like this, because the fixative will protect it. It's just more of a protection if you put the varnish or the wax on. It just gives you like 50 years of protection rather than a year. Yeah, and of course you could, with this paper, which is thinner, I could definitely wrap this paper around the side. I would just need to make sure I clamp it or clip it so it doesn't pull off. And maybe when I get home, and I would have to trim, where I have this, I'd have to trim the corners with a knife and make sure I get a nice corner there. When I get home, I think I will glue that around the side and clamp it and have it ready. So I think we're going to take a break now. we will need a break. So we'll take a little break and have a rest.